For senior leaders, few things are more frustrating than watching a project that was well scoped, well staffed, and carefully approved suddenly runs over budget. It's not that the team isn't working hard. It's not that people didn't try to get the numbers right. The problem is often baked into the process before the work even begins. After years of working with corporate clients across all kinds of industries, I can tell you this. Projects don't blow the budget because of one bad estimate. They go over because no one caught the early warning signs and no one put the right system in place to prevent it. In this video, I'll break down the most common reasons corporate projects go over budget and, more importantly, talk about how you can fix them. It starts with fuzzy scope and unclear priorities. If the scope isn't clear, the budget will always be shaky because you cannot estimate what you don't fully understand. And yet, I see this happen all the time. Leadership greenlights a budget based on a high-level idea before the scope is fully defined or approved. The result? Well, the team discovers new requirements midstream, sponsor makes addition on the fly, vendors get pulled in late with unclear expectations, and just as often, budgets get blown because priorities haven't been agreed on. That's where the priority matrix becomes a game changer. Before you start building your project estimates, which, by the way, either the PM or the senior executives can do, the priority matrix will help you get clear on what's fixed and what's flexible across 3 dimensions: scope, time, and budget. Why? Because this will help you be laser focused in your budget distribution. Here's how it works. The sponsor and steering committee need to decide of these 3, scope, time, and budget, which one is non-negotiable. Then they identify which can flex a little and which can flex a lot. That gets documented and signed off on to ensure everyone is on the same page. This matrix then becomes the early warning system. So if you decide that cost is fixed, this now gives you clear direction on what can and cannot be changed later without causing a ripple effect on the budget. That clarity prevents misunderstandings, minimizes scope creep, and gives project teams a solid foundation for making smart trade-offs later. So if you want tighter budget control, don't just define the scope, define what matters most and get the formal alignment on it. Mismanaged risks. If you're looking for one of the quietest, most costly reasons projects go over budget, look no further than mismanaged risk. Here's one of the unwritten rules we need to look at. Corporate teams are often under pressure to appear confident and decisive, so risk can sometimes be minimized when it really should be highlighted. Unfortunately, minimizing risk doesn't make it disappear. It just makes it more expensive when it comes to fruition. Let's talk about how mismanaged risk impacts budget. First thing is, when teams don't prepare for the what ifs, when they do hit, they scramble and overspend. The second thing is, when contingency plans are missing or vague, the response ends up being slow and costly. And third, if risk owners aren't assigned, nothing gets escalated until it's urgent. And if executives brush off risks, then it doesn't get built into the budget. So what's the fix? Risk management isn't just about tracking potential threats. It's about anticipating what those risks will cost if they happen and making sure there's a plan and budget to handle them. Let's talk about how exactly to do that. So you want to make sure your project teams do early risk identification. That includes cost impact estimates. Also have clear contingency funding built into the budget and agreed upon upfront. And don't forget to assign risk owners to monitor triggers and initiate response quickly. As part of your project manager's duty, ensure they review risks on an ongoing basis during steering committee updates, not just during planning. Think of contingency as your insurance fund. You hope not to spend it, but when you need it, it's the difference between navigating a challenge and blowing your budget wide open. This is also where your priority matrix comes into play again. If cost is a fixed priority, then risk mitigation becomes even more essential. Because without contingency funding and a risk action plan, even minor issues can push the project outside its financial limits. Having clear agreement on fixed priorities means you can justify and protect contingency funding up front before risks even materialize. The bottom line, well, when risk is mismanaged, budgets suffer. When risk is anticipated, monitored, and funded strategically, your team stays in control no matter what comes up. For a deeper dive on risk management, definitely check out my video on the topic. Go to the YouTube search bar and type in Adriana Girdler risk. The hidden cost of time. One of the most overlooked reasons projects go over budget is time. Delay costs money, and it's that simple and that complicated. Most people think of budgets in terms of line items, hardware, software, resources. But time has a sneaky way of blowing up your budget from the inside. Because when timelines slip, you're not just spending more time, you're spending more everything. Now, here's what happens when timelines are extended. People are still billing time. Vendors extend their contracts. Rental agreements get extended. And because more time is needed from project teams, their other work gets delayed as well. All of this means costs are stacking up. Now, multiply that across multiple teams, multiple projects, multiple departments, and you've got a serious cost issue in your organization. So, what's the solution? You need to connect time to cost from the start. Here's what that looks like in practice on your company projects. Time-related costs gets factored into every delay and change requests. The critical path is watched closely and bottlenecks get escalated early. Cost estimates are assigned to time-based risk like vendor delays or slow approvals. Project teams hold check-ins specifically focused on scheduled performance and cost impact. And one more thing. If your priority matrix shows that time is the fixed priority, then time management becomes your strongest budget defense. Because once time starts slipping, budget or scope is going to have to shift. Bottom line, time is money. And if you're not actively managing time, you're not actively managing costs. Over the years, I've seen some major project blunders when companies bring me in to clean things up. To help organizations avoid these pitfalls, I created a corporate project management program after helping so many companies fix their project issues. I'll put the link below where you can connect with me to learn all about that. Change happens and it costs money. Scope change is inevitable, but how that change is managed is the difference between staying in control and watching budgets spiral. The biggest budget failures often come from unapproved scope creep. Quick asks from an executive that bypass project managers, and small changes that accumulate into real big expenses. This is where a change control process earns its keep and where a priority matrix for each project becomes a powerful tool. Here's how to use it in practice. If a budget is fixed and a stakeholder wants to add functionality, you now have a reference point to say that will require a scope trade-off or a timeline extension. Or if a timeline is the immovable priority, you can flag that the requested change would delay delivery and ask for scope cuts or additional resources to keep on track. The matrix creates an objective way to say, we agreed on these priorities. If shifting is required, let's review, understand the impact, and realign. This keeps things under control and keeps the budget from unraveling when new requests start flying in. Think about how big this impact is when you multiply by multiple projects and initiatives. Lack of monitoring experience. When it comes to project budgets, lack of budget monitoring experience, especially for employees new to managing projects, is really one of the fastest way to lose control of your budgets. Now, here's how it usually plays out. Senior management sets up initial budgets for projects, but don't share how they arrived at the numbers. what the budget is meant to cover, or how they expect it to be monitored throughout the project. And no one teaches the project team how to track budget performance in a way that aligns with finance. So once the project work begins, everyone is focused on the deliverable and deadlines, but no one is actively monitoring the budget. This is where things start to break down. People without budget monitoring experience often don't realize how often they need to check numbers or what to look for. So when they're asked to present a budget update, teams are scrambling to put something together, and it's usually incomplete, inconsistent, worse yet, incorrect. The result? Confusion, rework, and budget issues. We all know that monitoring budgets can sometimes be a tricky activity, especially when different finance teams want reporting done in different ways. That is why building monitoring skills is so important, because budget oversight isn't a side task, it's a core part of running a project. So what does effective budgeting monitoring look like in practice? Here's what you want happening on your projects. Budget usage is tracked weekly or bi-weekly, not just monthly. Actual costs are reviewed against forecast, not just when finance escalates an overage. Team leads who manage vendors or resources are looped into cost reporting. Budget updates at steering committee meetings clearly show what was planned, what was spent, and what's left, and where the pressure is building. Any cost impacting decisions are flagged early, even if the full financial impact isn't known yet. When teams monitor this way, they gain time to adapt. They can pause discretionary work, reallocate funding across work streams, or escalate issues early to request budget adjustments before hitting the wall. That kind of visibility helps build credibility. Frequent budget monitoring signals control, professionalism, and trustworthiness. Organizations need employees who aren't just moving projects forward, but also watching the bottom line as they do it. It's not about blame, it's about better systems. Budget overruns are rarely the fault of one person or one decision. They happen when project systems don't support real-time visibility, strong governance, and upfront clarity. If you want better results, you need better structure, and that starts with how your team scope, estimate, monitor, and manage change. That's exactly what we do in our SLAY corporate project management program. We work with organizations to build practical, scalable systems that stop projects from derailing and give project teams the tools they need to stay in control from day one. If you want to talk about how we can help your teams manage projects with more precision, predictability, and accountability, visit the link in the description or reach out to me directly. Watch this video next. It talks about how standardization helps your project's teams consistently hit their project goals.